Well, I like movies that aren't typical, that have unique story structures. I certainly haven't ever read a screenplay like Lord of War before. A lot of times you see pictures that deal with the sort of the drug business, but very rarely do you get to have a what appears to be an inside look at the gun business.
It's really a snapshot of a character who walks his own moral line in a way, who sticks to his own code that he's defined for himself in a world very much grounded in reality, and also a snapshot of how our world works today, and what happens behind the scenes, what a lot of people suspect, as opposed to kind of what we see on the news every evening.
It's an in-depth character analysis told from the perspective of an unlikely protagonist in Yuri Orlov. You wouldn't normally see a movie told from the actual gun runner's eyes. You'd probably see it more expressed from Ethan Hawke's character's eyes, the Interpol agent who's tracking him. There's this cat and mouse game going on throughout the movie between Ethan and myself.
Obviously, Yuri Orlov is a composite of a number of real-life characters, and he didn't leave much research left undone at the end of the day, and then it just became Nick's job to interpret that character. This project, more so than maybe some of his other films, he always obviously has a larger point he's trying to make with his movies, whether he's writing and directing. But this one, more so than Gattaca or The Truman Show, his point is very much grounded in today's world and exactly how the world operates.
That's
currently.
what I like about it too, is that it's not like a typical Andrew Niccol script that ventures or borders on science fiction. As Norm is saying, it's more grounded, more linear story structure with Andrew's unique lens on it, if you will. I think it should be a good counterpoint. Well, there was a it's a South African capon vulture, I think it was called, on the set that day. And I had no doubt that this thing was a very ferocious Velociraptor from like Jurassic Park. I mean, the thing was a dinosaur. And it was yelling, it was like squawking and jump hopping, and it had these talons that if it landed on any part of you, you'd be in pieces. So I was sort of taken by that. And they were feeding it baby vultures, which made the whole scene more horrifying. And then there were bullet shells everywhere, and then I'm working with Sammy, who plays Andre Baptiste Jr. He's firing his gold-plated Uzi, or Kalashnikov, gold-plated Kalashnikov out of the car, going, yeah! Jared is a lot of fun to be around. His character is kind of like, although he's my brother in the movie, I feel like in a lot of ways it's more of a father-son relationship, because our parents, you know, let's face it, they raised a drug addict and a gun runner, and we're sort of out there on our own. So I think we're closer than we are with our own parents. And he's someone who's very excited about anything creative. You know, he's interested in all sorts of art forms.
Andrew is an artist. He's a really unique person. He has a really distinct voice in his writing, I think. And he's created a really interesting world that I'd never read too much about. Lord of War is distinct. It's all its own. There's never been a film, I think, that's touched on the territory this film has. And I like movies like that. I like films that take me to another place, that teach me things, that show me a different side of the world. He really loves his brother. His brother has been kind of the guiding force for him his whole life. And they have a really special relationship. They lean on each other a lot. Nick and I, from the first rehearsal, had a very natural connection. We got along great. We understood each other. We have the same sense of humor. We like to banter about similar things, and I was a big fan of his. Been a big fan of his since I was a kid. I grew up watching his movies, so for me, it's a dream just to be on set with him. I think that's one of the unique things about South Africa is it can double for so much of the world. The topography, it's such a bizarre place in a beautiful way. You know, you have this crazy range to take advantage of, and it's been a pleasure to shoot here. The crews are fantastic. The people work really hard. We've had a great time in Cape Town. It's been fun. I'm really curious about this film because it's so unique, and the scale of it is so. Normally, this film I think would have a tiny little budget, but the people that are back in this film are obviously really brave. So it makes me really curious to see this film. Because of the subject matter and the size, the scope. It feels like a huge movie. It's an independent film, but it feels like this giant movie for some reason. I mean, not for some reason. We're shooting on freighters and in planes, and there's guns and explosions, but it's, I think it's Lord of War. Lord of War is part political film, part social commentary, part character study, and entertaining all at the same time. It's really it's a fascinating movie. Learning Russian is really challenging because they have some sounds that we don't use in English, so you kind of got to train your mouth to wrap around those certain sounds that they make. So it's not easy, but it's worth it. I enjoy it. I really do. I think learning Russian has helped me get a grasp on who Vitaly is.
I am playing Agent Valentine, so I'm working for the Interpol, which is an agency that, international police agency, trying to track down this international arms dealer. That's basically the gist of so I basically harassed Nick throughout the movie. I worked with Andrew Niccol a few years ago on a film called Gattaca, and so I first heard of this film when he sent me the script, and I'm a real kind of diehard fan of Andrew's. I really believe in him, and it was really wanted to be a part of it. His movies have a real opinion and a real approach that's unique to him. I think that's one of the reasons why I really like working with him. It's very rare that you find somebody that really has their own voice, and Andrew really has that. One of the things I felt when I first read the script was how perfect a part it was for Nicolas Cage. You know, he's a great actor, and this is the kind of role that I don't think anybody in the world could do better than he could. So the project's really fortunate to have him involved. There's one that we did out in the middle of the desert there when, you know, Nick's character has to get rid of all his guns before I show up there. And I'll be most curious to see that one, I think. It's always hard when you're shooting out in the middle of nowhere and, you know, you've got X amount of time before the sun goes down and 200 extras in a giant 1960s Russian plane supposed to land in the middle of a shot, and, you know, a 4-page dialogue scene while that's going on. For some reason that can rattle the nervous system. But, you know, I'll probably take that to my grave, remembering that. It's fun. I know that I was shocked by the script and that I was really interested in it. And I think that that's the only barometer that I can use for whether, I hope other people be very interested. I think whether it's shocking or not probably depends on how educated you are in the, in this part of the world and what makes this world tick. I was completely uneducated, so I found it fascinating. The movie is certainly about ideas, and there's certainly a lot of ideas in it. I think if you really tell any human story, it's political. But the truth of the matter is that this country makes a lot of weapons, and we sell a lot of weapons, and we sell them to a lot of very poor people who kill each other with them. And so it's a dubious moral line,
It's so intelligent. It moves really quickly. You've really just become part of the film straight from the beginning of the script to the end, and it's just so current. You know what I mean? And it's intelligent, and it seems so realistic to what possibly could be going on or what is, of our time. So, and of course, Nick Cage being attached to it was, a huge draw, because he's an incredible actor. He always makes these really great choices in the material and the projects that he does. He's funny. He's the writer as well. So it's kind of great to have that situation. It's the first time I've had that, where the director and writer are the same, so you can always, he's so clear and precise in the script already, but as a director, he knows exactly what he wants. But at the same time, he just sort of lets things happen. He's not sort of overbearing or anything, and we haven't done a lot of rehearsals, so he's been, he likes it to all sort of happen in the room.
I think if you watch the film carefully, and it's a very much anti-war film. It really portrays an arms dealer over the last 20 years, and it really shows the kind of world this is. And when you try to sell a movie that tells the story of an arms dealer in the world of gun running, a week before the war in Iraq starts, it gives you the kind of idea how difficult it's going to be to put the finance together. It actually took me a year and a half, and I probably have had 3 financing structures, so I could have made 3 movies with all the deals that I had closed on the film that ultimately went away. When you listen to the voiceover Nick, you say, well, this is Nick Cage, and it's really brings something unique to the film. And when you describe a character like Yuri Orlov, which is very cynical, very likable, funny, but really a bad character. Andrew is so precise and so perfectionist. He likes things to be perfect, that he doesn't leave anything to luck or coincidence or anything like this. Any question you have without the answer, ask Andrew. The movie takes place, I would say, in about 12 to 13 different locations in Africa, with African-looking people and African-looking countries. And in order to avoid extra cost to fly to all of those destinations, we decided to regroup all of those countries here in South Africa where we could find and recreate all what is in those countries.